Hi friends, this is Sai. As promised in the last video, this video we'll be talking about what all is growing and how we are going to be harvesting it. So let me just show you in detail what we are dealing with. This is the first section of the garden which was planted. So you can look at the height that these plants have taken. You can see tomatoes probably. Just for reference height, if you can look at this tomato, right, that is around 2.5 feet, and the rest of the garden is in various stages. So this was planted the last, and these sections were planted in about a week, with a difference of a few days here and there. And here, oh my god, the sun is directly coming onto this. Yeah, so here the height is about 2 feet for the tomato. I'm just taking tomato as a reference because if I start taking the amaranth as a reference, it will become quite a bit of a problem because they were volunteers and some of them were not removed when I was doing the planting. And here, of course, the height is even lesser. So in this overall, the four areas that you have seen, that being the first one, this is different. I have got a different sort of a planting happening here, and here and here I've got almost the same type of planting going on. Now this again, there is a different sort of a planting. I've got corn here and certain things which need to be taken out. I think this is castor or something that needs to be removed. And here again, this is quite similar to what is happening there. So one of the first mistakes that we did when we started gardening, and one of the mistakes which still happens because it's slightly difficult to take care of it, is that generally you plant the whole garden at once. That seems to be quite economical in terms of if you're getting external labor. It also seems economical in terms of time, that okay, I'll probably this Saturday and Sunday I'm going to plant the whole thing, and it is quite easy. It goes with how we humans generally tend to think that once you've done it, then later on I'm just going to be bothered about watering and harvesting, so let me get it done at once. However, what happens is that if you've planted your entire garden at the same point of time and you have got a garden which is as big as mine or even bigger, you will have issues with harvesting, because everything, especially if you're growing the same kind of things in all these most of your containers, which is why I particularly was showing you that I am growing similar things in most of the containers. A lot of spinach is being grown. It is quite essential that you know that probably you are going to be harvesting all of it within a gap of 2 to 3 days, unless you are lazy, right? So if that is something which is going to be happening, then you need to be ready with all of your energy and time, because in permaculture we consider each thing to be a resource, right? So if a resource like spinach is harvested at the correct time, then it goes into cooking. If it is not harvested at the correct time, it is getting slightly delayed. It will keep on becoming big and big, and after some point of time it is not going to be as tasty or as palatable as it was when it was young. So probably you're not going to be consuming it. It is going to be used in some of the other way, probably as mulch, or maybe it goes into your compost bin, or probably it is fed to animals. Whichever way, there is a sweet spot of harvesting. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So we need to catch the plant at that sweet spot and harvest it. If you are not able to do, then that's a wasted resource. So when you are planting in your garden, and when you're planning about it, ensure that you are not planning to have everything being grown at the same time. Have a bit of spacing, take it slow. Now, I did not do it deliberately this time, but just my health and the overall situation. It was raining sometimes when I wanted to get the work done, and that was the reason that all this planting happened in a staggered way, right? And that is going for my advantage. I have nothing to complain about that. Okay, so this is the first section which got planted. This is just right next to the door, and this took a bit of time because I was trying out with a different combination of things to be growing, and planting definitely takes a lot of time when you are doing these kind of experiments. So what you can mainly see here is brinjal. Brinjals are there. Then you have tomatoes, right? And more tomatoes. And then you have chili. You can see there, chili plants. So these are the main ones. Then along with that I have sword bean, which is growing here. Sword beans in all these containers. Then I have okra, and I have guar bean. Of course, lots and lots of palak. There is dill, which is growing here. Can I go till there so that you can see? Just a second. Oh, I see it otherwise, but in the camera it is getting difficult. Yeah, you can see it there. That's growing. And then I have coriander, which is growing there. Of course, these volunteer amaranths, got lots and lots of them. Again, these red ones also, these are volunteer. I didn't put them. And I also have cucumbers growing here. So now the first question which is going to be is that you planted so many things. Basically it seems you got hold of all the seeds that you could, and you put them in a container. Now how are you going to be harvesting it? For that let's go into a bit of theory. See, the point of an intensive garden, as we call it in permaculture, is that this comes in zone 1, right? And zone 1 is where you can get huge amount of productivity if you can manage it, right? So those are the two key things which we learn. That is, you can have lots of productivity if you can manage it, because this is a place which is really close to where you stay. Basically you stay here itself, and that's why it makes a lot of sense. So the reason for planting this in this particular fashion, planting all these containers in this particular fashion, was that we keep on removing stuff, we keep on harvesting stuff. Oh, I forgot to mention, there is also garlic which is being grown in all these containers as a pest repellent measure, right? So the point is that this palak gets harvested immediately, and once this gets harvested, this is going to give way more sunlight into these containers, and therefore you will be seeing that the other things which are right now difficult for us to observe, they are the ones which are going to be getting the sunlight, and they are going to be coming out. And in this fashion, finally what I think I'll be remaining with is the big plants which I was showing you. That is things like sword bean. Sword bean is actually a 6-month crop. That's what I recently came to know. So that is going to be staying the longest, along with brinjal. That is, if I allow the brinjal to be still there. Brinjal, as some of you might be knowing, is a 3 years crop, but typically it is considered a 3-month crop, 90 days, because after that the production starts becoming slightly slow. So for farmers it is difficult for them to make an economic sense out of it. So I'll be remaining with, finally I'll be having lots and lots of sword bean, right? Before that I'll be having lots and lots of tomatoes and brinjals and chili, and before that I'll be having lots and lots of palak and dhania, coriander, right? And things like soy sappa are there just to be there, not essentially for harvesting purpose. So it is that kind of a thinking based on which I'm doing, I have planted it the way that I have planted it. And today is actually going to be the first test for that, because I have to start harvesting palak. There's a lot of palak, lot of spinach which I can see here, which you also can see here, and that needs to be harvested almost immediately. And when I'm doing that, I have to see whether how many of the other plants still survive my scissor work. So first, these amaranths are going to go. Some of you might not be knowing, but the stem is also quite edible and tastes quite well. Of course, the seeds are the one with which we have a problem because they keep on falling and keep on coming up. Okay, so harvested quite a bit of amaranth from here, and now we are going to be tackling palak. So this is the day 2, and still could not harvest this because the weather is somehow not supporting, and I don't want to catch a cold. So finally, quite a bit of harvesting has been done. You can see that the palak that I put on the sides, quite a bit has been harvested, although quite a bit is still there, and which will be harvested in due time. Now, if you compare it, I mean, you would have to go back just a few minutes to see how it was looking before we did the harvesting. If I look at it right now, I don't see much of a change. Probably I see that I have cut amaranth here and the palak that you saw, but beyond that, the containers still seem to be looking full, and you can hardly see any soil. But you'll be surprised to know that in just this area that I am showing you, a kg of palak has been harvested and half a kg of amaranth has been harvested. So my friend Dwarkanath DJ, he calls this think beyond one pot, one plant. You can grow more amount of plants if you are, of course, taking care of them, and if you have thought of the proper companion planting. For example, you can see here, what I'm doing is I have these palak which are towards the end, which makes it easier for harvesting, and I've got my other main plants inside. So one is that in the time that typically people are growing just a brinjal or just a chili or just a tomato, which I'm considering the main plants, I'm growing along with it a lot many more plants. And by understanding how the harvesting of each takes place, you can actually stack it. That's what we call it in permaculture, stacking it. So I have dhania, or I have methi, that is your fenugreek, and palak, which are this high, right? And they get harvested within, let's say, 9 to 40 days, you can start harvesting them. But your chilies and tomatoes, they are 60 to 90 days plants. They are going to take much more time. So instead of keeping your pots empty, you can actually start growing things like this and get a lot more produce than is possible. With this, I'll end this video, and in the next video I'll be talking more about how I'll be setting up a few things here and there. And of course, these empty spaces that you see here, we have actually planted stuff here, so pretty soon we should be able to see them coming up and a nice trellis forming. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.